Still summertime from DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, one of the greatest duos, perhaps in music history. We hope to be a great duo at some point. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. Yes, it's a generational thing. I don't think DJ Jazzy Jeff stuck around long enough, but everybody still knows the Fresh Prince. Ask Chris Rock about that.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing Simon and Garfunkel need to be on there someplace.
Oh, they should be number one with a bullet, most likely.
Wow.
But we try to make ourselves a decent duo, and summertime is the theme of the day because it looks like it's going to be a good one in Duluth today. And I told you, Dave Cook, at the beginning of the show that when this segment came around, I was going to be a little bit torn, and not because it's PA. I know where my emotions are with that. I'm always beyond excited when we get to be joined by him. But a lot of the excitement, a lot of the talk is what's to come this fall. Married to a teacher and having summer weather just showing itself, I don't want to wish summer away, but there's a lot of reason for Viking excitement. We're going to share in it.
You set up a weird show then because Vencie's next.
Right.
Like, we're talking football for a guy that doesn't want to talk football right now. Holy cow.
Well, the Harbor Monsters are around too. That's so true. Football, football is king and it never knows how to go away. And sometimes it knows how to steal the spotlight in a big way. And we love having PA in the spotlight. So let's go right to him. Vikes Vox, Paul Allen. Good morning, my friend.
You got to have Daryl Hall and John Oates.
We do.
In the top duo. I mean, they had more number one hits in the '80s than Michael Jackson. So, whether you want to look at it like the video age, MTV really amplified and enhanced Hall and Oates. Ain't no doubt about that. So some people have negative opinions about that. But Daryl, you growing up in Washington D.C. Daryl Hall and John Oates crossed over to black crowds and white crowds. And when I lived in D.C., I lived in all black neighborhoods. So it was me and a bunch of Puerto Ricans with majority of African Americans. And, when Daryl Hall rolled around, and like all my black friends and their parents, were like, wow, who's this guy? Kind of helped me get into the crowd. You know what I mean?
I do, and I'll have to find the phone number, but there is a hotline that you can call and press 1 to hear Maneater, press 2 to hear Rich Girl, and it's kind of fun. It legit works.
Yep, and press 3 to hear me.
There you go. I would press 3 as often as I can because there's plenty to talk about with mandatory minicamp this week. The new all-white uniform for Monday Night Football in December. That had some fans tripping, both good and bad, about how that's going to look. But the big news, obviously, was the Jefferson contract. I think we all knew in our heart of hearts it would get done, but until it was, we couldn't really gloat about it. Your feelings on that, because we've got an incredible character guy, an incredible player in the house for at least the next 4 years.
It's an interesting question because, having Jefferson on the team is the A topic. All right. So, we're at least a lot of people will look at the bottom line. And if you're really going to take the next thought and be like, okay, well, where are you going to get money for this? Or what are you going to do with this? And how are you going to be 2 or 3 years down the road? I don't do that. We got Jefferson on the team, which is good. Secondly, Justin really showed his maturity during this run by not putting out cryptic tweets or unfollowing teams or being like, hello, let's put the pedal to the metal here. What are we waiting for? So he showed his maturity there, which in this day and age really does need to be applauded. And thirdly, the one thing that I just can't wrap my mind around, I can just never completely accept when people are like, all right, Brian makes this, Dave makes this, my stats have been this, so I got to make more than them. Yeah, that just I don't know, man. That just never has really hit me well.
I can appreciate that, and I want to piggyback off it because did that line of thinking obviously influence the CD Lamb situation down in Dallas?
What happened there?
Well, he's basically not participating in the mandatory minicamp, and we don't know what he's going to do in terms of showing his face because I'm sure he thinks his monetary value just went through the roof.
Right. Yeah, good point. Let me ask you a question. Somebody asked me last night at calling races at Canterbury. We on Fridays we will have music. So like last night, Night Ranger, Sister Christian,
nice.
Don't Tell Me You Love Me. Only 2 songs I knew.
Still Rock in America.
I was gonna say, I think we need to change his bump out song now. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. So so somebody, a Vikings friend of mine, who I took in the show with last night, asked me this question: this with the Dallas Cowboys? What do you think is the over/under? Or like if you were to pinpoint a date, Mike McCarthy gets fired and Mike Zimmer becomes the interim head coach, when would you do it? And he's like, Halloween. So that plays into your CeeDee Lamb question in that, and my man last night brought up something really good that I hadn't really thought of, is like, this is the final year of McCarthy's deal. All right. Now, I mean, Jerry Jones, to be like, okay, you can save, let's say, $3.5 million by firing somebody midseason, something like that. Well, why would that matter? He's a multi-billionaire. Well, that's how they become multi-billionaires, by, saving pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters and in places people don't know. So it all plays into what you're talking about with CeeDee Lamb, because you got this with CeeDee Lamb. You got Dak Prescott unsigned, and he's not happy about it. And now, personally, I don't think he'll sign with them unless they really, really go over the moon, because he's frustrated. And Micah Parsons, there was a story earlier in the week where, maybe the best defensive player in the game, Micah Parsons, is like, Zimmer and I have had 20 words together, where he was kind of like, I just kind of thought that there would be more interaction with my coordinator. So they're off to a rough start down Dallas way.
Yeah, Brian, our opinion on McCarthy from the get-go has always been not the greatest team guy as far as building can but boy, oh boy, you bring Zim in after that. PA, if the offense for Dallas is cooking and you bring in Zim, he could take them a long way this year if you did that in October.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's a counterfeit bit, and it's just hard to define why. Like the Phoenix Suns with Booker and Durant and Beal, okay. I mean, that right there is not supposed to get swept in a playoff series. Okay, you can lose, but you're not supposed to get swept and then lose the whole series on your home court. So there's some counterfeit to that. The way the Cowboys got beat by the Packers in the playoffs last year, I mean, the way they got annihilated, I mean, I'm still surprised that McCarthy has a job right now. But they're just like a $3 bill, man. They're just kind of a counterfeit bit.
Talking with PA Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings. I'll tell you, when we booked this segment earlier in the week, I never thought the McCarthy that would come up first would be Mike instead of JJ.
Right.
But since he did, and since he went to Zimmer, I want to go to defense, because we'll talk a lot about Jefferson, about McCarthy, about Aaron Jones, about Sam Darnold, etc. But there's a lot of excitement around what this defense is going to look like for the Vikes too. Grenard, Van Ginkel, Cashman, Shaq Griffin. What's your thought on the defensive side?
Well, after the 3 days of mandatory minicamp, and let's just be straight here with the crowd. Minicamp and organized team activities are not close to as significant, at least from an opinion sharing standpoint or opinion formulating, as training camp, because they don't have pads on, and there's not 11 on 11. So, just take that with the proverbial grain of salt. So when I bounce around in minicamp, I mean, I'm watching some plays. I'm still trying to figure this kickoff thing out. The new kickoff setup. It's just the strangest thing in the world to look at the way it's formulated. But what I heard from people who matter to me defensively is what they're really excited about is their youth and their speed. So, you get Harrison Smith into his 13th year. Jim Kleinsasser, Carrington, North Dakota, he played 13 years for the same team. So, this probably is it for Smith. And in fact, I think there was something written during the week that I do believe to be true, where, his playing time probably will diminish. So he'll start and he'll play a majority of the plays, but probably not all of them, which Harry's not used to. And I would assume he would acquiesce. So outside of Smith and then like Shaq Griffin, it's a really young defense, and Grenard's really, really fast, and Dallas Turner's really fast. They have speed all over the place. Now they just have to cultivate it.
It'll be interesting to see which one of those players quickly becomes a fan favorite, like a Jim Kleinsasser. Mountain West Tonka assistant basketball coach Jim Kleinsasser, Dave Cook. He made an appearance in Duluth earlier this spring. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, I've got a question, PA, that's going to have a little less to do with the sport, and I want it from your point of view, your eyes. The new Vikings uniforms, the numbers are really crisp and whatnot, but we've seen some really awful uniforms as far as public address and or radio, being able to see numbers, whatnot.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, in your experiences, has been the most difficult uniform for you to work with while you're on the radio?
Awesome question, easy answer. I can't remember the year, but we've been to FedEx Field a bunch of times, and like I've called a fair amount of Kirk Cousins games at FedEx Field when he either played for the Vikings or Washington, and one of those games they used black uniforms and gold numbers, and it was a day game. So, the booth setup at FedEx Field is the worst in the league. It's super small, deep in a corner, low angle. So when they're at the end zone right in front of us, it's badass video game. When they're on the other side of the field, you can't see the sideline because of the Washington players standing up by the sideline. So that situation is not preferred. Now, when the sun, like quarters 2, 3, and half the fourth, when the sun was over the stadium, it would shine off the numbers. So therefore, gold sun, radiating shine, gold numbers. It was tough. Just so those gold numbers on those black uniforms, man, that was tough right there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm doing the public address for Duluth's new Arena Football League team, and so far we've only had one home game, but I'm glad everything is pretty neon. It's very difficult not to be able to see everything because it's very bright lights, not so big city kind of thing. But speaking of uniforms, PA, I know it got social media buzz. I know it's going to sell apparel, and the Twins are actually going to unveil another City Connect on Monday. Have sports in general gone too far with the number of uniforms, or is it cool because we all like new, fresh looks, and obviously it sells more and the dollar's the bottom line?
Well, the dollar's the bottom line, so there you go right there. I mean, it's the National Football League, man, where, say Brian Prudhomme is the fourth tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and, you made an NBA Finals bet in the facility, okay, which is no good. So the rules are, you can't do that. All right, well, the penalty that some of these people face is pretty stiff. Yet on the other side of it, the NFL will in turn take about $2.5 million in advertising from that same site with whom you bet, like FanDuel or DraftKings. So it's duplicitous and it's completely talking out of both sides of your mouth. So the bottom line of the dollar, yes, you're right. But what I like about it is with all these new uniforms coming out for everybody, is when they do go to, like, what your favorite uniform is, say it's from the 70s or the 80s, like, say the Rams with the blue uniforms and, like, the ram horn on the helmet, or the Dolphins go teal, or the Chargers go navy blue, or the Cowboys go navy blue, then it really makes me appreciate those old school uniforms for their simplicity.
I can appreciate that. So in your hypothetical, you made me the fourth tight end. I'm going to segue off that. N'Keal Harry, all of a sudden he's tight end. What number? What's going on here in Vikings minicamp in that sense?
Yeah, that's interesting because, I got into this a little bit 9 to noon earlier in the week, and that was before I knew Harry was going to tight end. Hawkinson, on the Mike Hughes Memorial Field, all 3 days of minicamp that I was there, I mean, he was sprinting. So if he's not going to play early in the season, then I guess he's not, or maybe he will. But, I mean, like whatever portion of the ACL recovery sprinting is, well, that's where he is. So that was pretty cool. Robert Tonyan looks pretty good. I didn't realize, at this stage of his career how quick he was. But then you get to N'Keal Harry. All right, so he's a tight end with Josh Oliver and Robert Tonyan and Johnny Munt. Now, Munt, Tonyan, Oliver, they're all going to make the team. And if Hawkinson's healthy, he'll make the team, obviously. So by moving Harry to that spot, it's kind of a little bit of a tell that maybe Hawkinson won't start the season on time. But here's what I got into 9 to noon. This receiver they gave a 1-year deal to, Trent Sherfield Jr., he's one of the better special teams coverage guys in the NFL, and I didn't know that. But, he's like 6'1", 2 and change. He's a bigger guy. And when he played for the Niners, the Dolphins, and the Bills, his main responsibility was run blocking. So now you got him, and then Harry is 6'4", 225, so you use him. And I think it's kind of the 49ers approach a little bit to have a wide receivers who are tough to help your running game. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it now.
So, PA, I want to look at another player that I'm sure you've had a chance to put a good eye on, and that's Prospect X. That's Levi Drake Rodriguez. And everything I've been hearing is we've got one of the most active, upbeat players we've had in a long, long time. What's your experience with him so far?
Well, the active part's very accurate. And, his quick twitch is good. He's undersized. So now, like some things I saw from number 50, that's what he wears, during minicamp and the OTAs that I watched is exactly what you said. He looks like he belongs. When they put the pads on and we get to training camp and say, like when we go to Cleveland, we're going to be in Cleveland 5 days. We're going to be in Cleveland longer than we're going to be in England, which is weird. So when we go there and, he's opposite, say they put him in against the ones for Stefanski's team. Well, one of the guards is Wyatt Teller, and he's really, really good. And Cleveland's offensive line is good. So that's where they'll give him reps against the ones and the twos against Cleveland. And if he can beat him, he's not going to push anybody back. Okay, he just doesn't look like that guy. He just looks like the quick twitch, get by you kind of guy that occasionally may require a double, but the rubber has not met the road for him yet.
Right.
So we are chatting with Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings. But again, summertime is just getting started, and football will have plenty of time to be in the spotlight. One could argue it always is. But, PA, there are some other topics I want to approach with you. You mentioned calling races at Canterbury, which I know you enjoy beyond words, perhaps, and I really need to get there this summer. This weekend, I believe, is a big weekend in horse racing because it's the Belmont. But I always think of the Belmont and how big is it when there's no Triple Crown threat. Does that race just kind of get pushed to the wayside?
Yes, it's horse racing used to be known as the sport of kings, and that was when there were only 3 channels in PBS. And if you went to a Saturday at Santa Anita, which I did in 1979 when I was 12 or 13, and that's when I got bit. There were like 60,000 people there for the Santa Anita Derby. Now there probably would be like 6 to 10 because there are so many other opportunities and options with phones and computers and sporting events. So horse racing has become a short-term investment more than a sport. It's a game. It's a short-term investment. What we're going to do tonight at Canterbury at 5, that's not sports. That's short-term investing and a wonderful spectacle because horses, when they go 30 miles per hour, are beautiful. And the silks are beautiful. So the pageantry is still there. But when it comes to the Belmont Stakes today, there's a horse named Sierra Leone who almost won the Derby. He'll probably win today. Mystic Dan, the Derby winner, he's in the Belmont. Seize the Gray, the Preakness winner, he's in the Belmont today. For those of us who follow it, that's pretty cool. But like for you guys, if Mystic Dan, who won the Derby, if he won the Preakness and he was going for the Triple Crown today, it would be a different talker than when there is no Triple Crown chance. So you're right.
I'll take Seize the Gray because it sounds like a takeoff on Dave's beard and mine. I'll take Seize the Gray for the win in the Belmont today. Last talker that I want to approach with you is, of course, the NBA Finals. We all wish the Wolves would have gotten there. The Mavericks had other ideas. By the way, your interview, I think it was Thursday with Chris Finch on 9 to Noon, was top-notch. His transparency and the conversation that you guys had was really must-listen type stuff. But as far as the finals go, it's one game and Boston won it. You can say they won it handily because for most stretches they did, but how do you see this series going?
Yeah, they killed him. And Al Horford for the Celtics is giving them what we had to have from Karl Anthony Towns. And a big guy, a stretch 4, as they would say in the business. I think Horford's like 6'10", Cat's like 7 feet, but Horford hits threes. And he's just a different kind of – he's just more poised than Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, he's been in the league forever. But the problem here is that Al Horford is their 4 option, or maybe their 5, where Cats are 2. So you look at like Tatum, then Brown, then Porzingis, then Derek White, then Al Horford. I mean, that has to change here. So McDaniels needs to become a Derek White. Karl Anthony Towns needs to become a Jaylen Brown. And that would give them a better chance to win the title. I think Boston will win the title. Now, thanks for the nice words on Finch. But in closing, as the NFL draft goes, he gave us a tell, ma'am, where he said 11 of the last 12 college basketball defensive players of the year have been really good NBA players. And so the college basketball defensive player of the year is a guy named Jamal Sheed or Shed from Houston. And he's a point guard. And you can get him in the late 20s where the Timberwolves pick. So just remember that was shared.
PA, we appreciate all your insight. Thank you for the musical tip as well. I know you can't hear it, but we changed your bump out choice, Little Sister Christian from Night Ranger, in honor of the discussion today. We love every discussion we get with you. Let's do it again soon.
Yep, got you. God bless you guys. I'm not a Night Ranger fan per se, but this song, Sister Christian, is music immortality. See you guys later.
Appreciate you, PA.
No argument with that. No argument with loving segments with PA. I love every time we get them. You said, for a guy that loves summer like myself, why am I talking so much football? What you forgot is I put baseball in the middle. Brian Timm is next. He's the PA voice of the Duluth Huskies, a position very familiar to Mr. Dave Cook.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Brian Prudhomme. We'll both be back shortly. Stay with us. We try real hard each and every Saturday to entertain you this week from 10 to noon because no Monster Weekend kickoff this week. The Harbor Monsters are on a bye week. That show will be back next week, though, so you can join us from 10 a.m. to 1. But no Harbor Monsters in town, so you can always check out the Duluth Huskies. We're going to talk to Brian Timm about that in a moment. But first, we need to pay homage to our great sponsors. Without that, we are nothing, Dave Cook.
Yeah, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer, Assisted Living Locators, free to use, helping your loved ones locate living memory care and independent living at www.assistedlivinglocators.com/Duluth. The Blackwoods Group, including the locations on London Road, Blackwater right downtown, Tavern on the Hill, Proctor and Two Harbors, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Hoops Brewing, and Arola Architecture Studios.
Arola Architecture Studio brings you Drawing Lines. That'll be the final segment with Vencie Glenn. That is about 15 minutes away. But right now, it is my pleasure to speak with Brian Timm. Brian Timm is the public address voice of the Duluth Huskies this season. It's his maiden voyage with the team. He's got the guru right across the table from me. Dave Cook, you did it, 6, 7 seasons?
Yeah, 7 seasons, I think. Then we got chased out for interns.
We did. I'm not going to elaborate on that because I like my job. But at the same time, we did have a good 7 years or so with them. I got to do the webcast play-by-play. Yep. That is one thing that Brian Timm says he could not do is play-by-play, but he is the public address voice for a lot of things, also the Marshall Hilltoppers. So basically, when I talk to Brian Timm, it's a little bit like talking to you, Dave Cook, just a guy with a lot more hair.
Yeah, well, a lot more hair. Exactly correct. And probably a better voice, don't you think?
Well, let's hear it and let's judge for ourselves. But I do love his voice, and I love chatting with him. This is the first time on radio we've gotten to do it. Brian Timm, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It'll be an honor to have you. So how are things going at Wade so far? Because it was home opener last Sunday, Education Day, because my wife took her class to Education Day on Monday. So you've already got 2 of the big ones by the wayside because the home opener is always fun. And I could actually step away from the microphone and just let you and Dave exchange stories of what it's like doing PA with 1,300 Rugrats in the crowd.
Yeah, that was a fun day, to be honest. And actually, what was really cool is we were able to do like a big chant, like "Let's go Huskies," that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And right when Joe Voss was getting up to bat, it was cacophonous. It was super loud, and he goes ahead and jacks one out, and it was amazing. Kids were going crazy, everybody's going crazy. But then, after the 5th inning, everybody's got to get home and get on the bus, right? So about 60 people in the stands after that. So it was a very interesting day. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people came out, actually. Opening weekend, we had 2,800, which is the most since 2018, I believe.
That's correct.
So, we're off to a good start, for sure.
That is good to see. I would like to see the crowds come back to Wade because Dave Cook and I had the honor of being part of 2 of the record-setting seasons at Wade, and we really thought it was on the right trajectory. And, COVID and a lot of other things had other ideas. So hopefully the recovery is now. You mentioned Joe Voss, so I was going to ask this question a little bit later on in the segment, but you segued to it, so I'm going to go right away. Local baseball here this week has kind of had a fun week. We had a shot at 2 Duluth schools getting to the state baseball tournament. Grand Rapids had other ideas for Duluth Denfeld. ESCO had other ideas for Duluth Marshall, but all 4 of those teams had great seasons. Duluth East also had a good season getting to the Final 4 of their section. But at the same time, if you look at the current Duluth Huskies, they could change their name to the Duluth East Huskies and it would make some sense because between Mr. Sutherland, Mr. Cole, and Mr. Voss, you got a lot of punch from former Greyhounds.
Yeah, and to be honest, they're all contributing. It's not like they're sitting on the bench, right? So within the top 5 hitters, all of those guys. Charlie's hitting second right now. He got moved up. Ethan's been hitting third, and Joe kind of goes between 4th and 5th. So, yeah, they are contributing, and they're doing well. Also, Cale Haugen from ESCO.
Right.
I think he was Minnesota Player of the Year last year.
Correct.
Gatorade. And he got a win against the Big Sticks, and then he came back, and then he got a loss. But he's been pitching well, so yeah, we have a lot to be proud of in Northland, and we got some really good baseball up here in high school as well.
We certainly do. And Dave Cook, there's your telltale sign that we've been out of the league for a while, because I asked my wife about the experience on Monday, and she said she enjoyed it. She said the kids enjoyed it, but she looked at me and said, were the Badlands Big Sticks a thing when you were there? I said, no, the league has grown by leaps and bounds.
Oh, I thought those were those.
Yeah.
That was a promotional item when we were there.
Yeah, exactly correct. Exactly correct. Hey, Brian, I want to ask a two-part question. And the first part is, one of the most difficult things in baseball public address, in my opinion, is figuring out timing with walk-up songs. So I'd like you to talk about that. Correct. And then so far, what's the best walk-up song?
Oh, that is a great question. All right. Well, first of all, the timing, with the walk-up songs, because, I'm working with interns. So I like to get there early and try a couple things out. But it really comes to timing. And to be honest, right after a play is done, you've got to either address it right away or start the walk-up song. And I usually address it. And then I tell him to start the song, because with the microphone, they don't play at the same time, right? So I say, go ahead, start it, and then I try to talk, and then boom, it cuts in right away, so that there's a clean transition there. But it's always, sometimes you got these guys running up to the plate, and you got no time, right? Other guys are like, okay, well, I'm going to take my time. Like Cardell Thibodeau is a prime example, leadoff hitter for us. He waits back, I announce his name, and then he uses a good, 10 to 15 seconds of his walk-up song. So in regards to the best walk-up song, I don't know exactly what the name of the song is, but it is Joe Voss again. But it is some sort of salsa, Spanish kind of riff, and it's everybody is kind of like in shock, because Joe Voss is a big 6'2", 250 guy. And he's got this kind of like hip shaking kind of samba kind of going on. So that's what I would say. I'll get the name of it for you guys.
Joe Voss is certainly a character. I know you got familiar with him on the basketball court during his days at Duluth East as well. I want to talk a little bit about that in terms of transition sport to sport, because the three of us could get together and talk about how much fun doing PA for volleyball is. We're all in agreement on that. You and I talk about basketball during the winter. And that is so much talking and so much energy and so much go, go, go. And then I talk to folks like Topher Davis, Bob Gustafson, Dave Cook, who are hockey guys, and they have a lot of time off per se, where they're not saying much. So I've kind of chided them about that before. And their retort has been, yeah, but when we have to go, we have to bring it. Where if you and I doing basketball do a bucket and we go, well, that didn't sound how I wanted to, we got about 12 seconds till we get to do it again. What's it like for you as a PA guy for baseball, where you have moments that are big and then moments that aren't so big? How do you measure, I guess, your own performance as you're going along?
Yeah, it's definitely the transition from, I do UMD volleyball, and that is, there's no time. You have got to go bang, 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 and keep that energy up. It is a shorter amount of time. That's the other thing. But with baseball, you really have to pick your moments and know the moments of what are going on in the game, too, to wait if you want to raise that level a little bit with announcing a guy's name. A lot more reads, a lot more long reads, because you've got all those innings in between. So it's an extended, version. So you're reading 3 to 4 ads in between, in between 8 innings. And then you've got like the dizzy bat and you got these other things. So it is continuous, but it's kind of at a lower, steadier pace. I like it. I got to do a couple Marshall baseball games to kind of get in the zone with it. And I was pleasantly surprised that I really enjoyed it. Being at Wade, you're outdoors, you're looking out at that field. It's a beautiful old stadium. In the history, and it's when they say it's like America's pastime, it is. You're passing time. It's a 3-hour, 9-inning game. So you just try to there's an ebbs and flows, and you just have to kind of pick your moments, like you say. It's and then again, I'm just as hard as on myself as you guys are, I'm sure, trying to make sure you analyze what you've done and how you can make it better.
100%. That's very well said, especially when you're talking to a couple guys that have been there, done that for a handful of years. But it's a blast, and we're glad that you're part of it. We are chatting with Brian Timm. He is the PA voice of the Duluth Huskies. Duluth Huskies off to a pretty good start. And Dave, one of the things that you love is local teams when they have local talent, and the Huskies have that too.
Oh, to me, that's the most important thing, Brian. We've talked about non-college teams in the area, and that's how they survive, is being good and having local. Brian, I had a quick question for you. This maybe is a message to everybody else, but really it's a conversation between us. After a couple games, what are some of the things you see that might be improved, and some of the things you see of yourself that you say, okay, I can do that better going on?
And again, this is not being critical, because I think what's going on right now, what the Huskies are doing is fantastic. There's opportunity, right? I mean, you've got this whole huge parking lot where, I'll walk through on the way to the game, and we've got about 4 or 5 groups of people who are tailgating. It's a beautiful day out. I mean, look at today. It's going to be 70 degrees tonight. Gates open at 5:30. I think we could promote that a little bit more. And then there's also even the games within the games. I mean, the interns and the assistant general manager, Casey Snyder, Nick Romero, they're doing a great job putting things together. But, you think of that Mike Veck from like St. Paul, and you think way back in the St. Louis Cardinals days, get a little crazy, get a little nuts and try to bring people in that way too. Just speaking of that, which I thought this was a good thing that they were doing on July 14th. They're going to have an Eras Tour dance class. So if you're a Swiftie, they're going to load up the field with a whole bunch of people that want to get out there. They're going to play Swift music, and then they're going to have a kind of a dance class.
That's
and
awesome.
I don't know when that's going to be. Yeah. So it's like, trying to just create some interest. And like you were saying, winning and local kids really drive those numbers up a lot. And right now they're in 3rd place, tied with Eau Claire. And Thunder Bay, the team that we're playing tonight, they're 9-2. They're exceptional. The top half of their order is stacked. So we just got to keep doing those things to keep moving forward, and then again try to get a couple more wins. And on my end, I always ask people, like, because the PA system there could be, it's not, as not the absolute best. So you have to make sure that your voice sounds clear and you don't get the microphone too close. And there's a lot of little particular things that can make everything, and the music too. So that's the big balance, I guess.
That's the official arena of enunciation, Brian.
Exactly.
So I think the one thing we want to make sure your interns hear is that Mike Veck and Bill Veck had a lot of great ideas, but they also had Disco Demolition Night and 25-cent all-you-can-drink beer night. And those are two of the most infamous special events in baseball history. Don't do those.
Yeah, there are good ideas.
No.
And there are bad ideas. Go ahead, Brian.
That is true. Yep. The one I remember, too, I think they set the world record for most people getting a massage on the field at one time. I don't know. So it's just thinking outside the box. It's a lot of fun, though. That's what it is. I mean, Huskies baseball, it's a great thing for your family. You come out, you're having a hot dog, you're having a brat, you're sitting down. There's a good older crowd because they've appreciated that in the past, and we just got to keep those younger kids coming in, and parents for that matter too.
Brian, it's why every so often I'll come up with ideas and you'll be like, that's great for the car, but we're not doing that in real life. And so those conversations have to happen at Wade, right?
Those kind of things do happen. Yeah. And what I'm enjoying about this segment is it's a little bit of role reversal because we have Dave Hoops on every week. So when I'm addressing a Dave, I have to be very cognizant of what Dave am I talking to. I'll be honest, during this whole segment, every time Dave has said Brian, I've looked like, well, is Brian Timm going to go or am I supposed to go? As you and I say, it's a Brian thing, and it's a Brian with an I thing.
It is a Brian thing.
Yes, absolutely it is. Speaking of things, how about getting familiar with this Huskies roster? Because looking at the schedule, 10 out of the first 14 have been away from Wade. Have you gotten to know the guys fairly well already, or still working on that piece?
Yeah, still working on that piece. I go down there, I ask a couple questions. They're trying to get ready. It is always a relaxed atmosphere, but I'm more, professional-wise, and Brian and both you guys know this, that you got to get those pronunciations correct.
Yes.
Especially for your own teammates, on your team. So that's usually a good in with those guys. And then I like a little feedback too from those guys. I'm like, do you like that? Do you not like that? So I haven't got a chance to really get in there. Joe's been the guy that I talked to a couple times. I know my sons have known Charlie, but I got definitely work to do in that area. But again, 3 games in, tonight's the 4th game. Then we go back up to Thunder Bay. But then this week coming up, June, I think it's 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, we get a 4-game homestand. So really looking to delve in a little bit deeper on those nights.
Yeah, it should be fun with the Huskies getting back in town for a bit more of an extended stay because their homestands have been pretty brief to this point. But again, they're in action at Wade tonight. Thunder Bay, the opponent, right. It's part of a 6-straight game stretch where the Huskies and Border Cats get to know each other pretty darn well. But Brian, I want to ask you this. I want to ask about how this came to be because I know that there's been a general manager change. They've got, a pair of assistant general managers and how the position became available to you. And then as involved as you are in sports, spending your summer at Wade, do you have AAU withdrawal already?
Yeah, the transition was 2 days. So I coach for MinStark's AAU program. I have the U11 team. So what's nice is it's like a 2-month season. And then all of a sudden, I would switched over and the next game was June 3rd for the Huskies. So not a lot of time to take a breath and even think about that. But it's actually a really nice transition because coaching basketball and PA announcing are two different animals. So I like the difference and the change to it. But as you know, I am a basketball first type of guy. But baseball has always been a big part of my life too. So it's been really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to more.
Very happy that you got this opportunity. You are certainly one of my favorite announcers in town. We are quite the fraternity, if you will, and you're one of the more distinguished members, such a factor in our community. Thanks for joining us and taking some time today.
Not a problem, Brian. Dave, thanks a lot, fellas. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. That is Brian Timm. He's the PA voice of the Huskies. I've now talked to two of them today, current and former.
Absolutely, and that's the cool thing is the thread over time, right?
And I think that's one of the first things that we've done. Very rarely, we've had other play-by-play broadcaster folks on at the pro level. Very rarely have we spotlighted other local guys. Nobody I'd rather do that with than Brian Timm.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think the thread through history that keeps it interesting, and Brian and I are part of a thread at Wade.
Absolutely, and Brian Timm brings the energy. The fans should too. Duluth Huskies need a crowd, especially when the Harbor Monsters are not here. Harbor Monsters on a bye week this week, on the road next week. They will return to the deck on Sunday, June 23rd. One segment to go. Drawing lines courtesy of Roll Architecture Studio. Their spotlight guest every time is 2-5, Vencie Glenn. Stick around. We'll be right back. Cute as can be. That's not me. I'm in radio for a reason. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook.
Me, though.
This show certainly goes by fast when you're having fun. It's been fun again today. It's fun every Saturday here on the Northland Sports Page, thanks in large part to our terrific sponsors.
Yes, Assisted Living Locators. Free to use. Help your loved one find assisted living, memory care, or independent living. That's www.assistedlivinglocators.com/Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling. Heat and cool your house with Kraus.
Emphasis on cool this weekend. Go ahead.
Well, yes, let's hope, right? Advantage Element Screen Printing. Kohler Hyundai and Kohler Toyota. Comfort Systems of Duluth. Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies. Mountain Royal Bottle Shop. The Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road. Blackwater right here downtown. Tavern on the Hill. Proctor and Two Harbors. Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance. Hoops Brewing. And Arola Architecture Studio.
Arola Architecture Studio each week brings us drawing lines, and here to draw lines with us again is number 25. 25 is Vencie Glenn, former Vikings safety. Vencie, good morning. Good to have you back, my friend.
Oh, good morning, guys. How are you?
Very good,
Marvelous.
Very good. Always better when we talk to you, and I want to talk about the life of mandatory minicamp. Now, we had Paul Allen on to start the 11 o'clock hour here, and he and Ben Lieber also talked about this earlier in the week, that mandatory minicamp might fall under the fanball label that you like to give certain things because everybody looks great working out in shorts and a helmet, and it's just not all it's cracked up to be. Do you have minicamp memories, and what do you think it's really like?
Oh, yeah, I got a lot of minicamp memories, but more so training camp. It's just getting to know the new guys, just getting acclimated into that mindset again of the grind and what your focus is and what your priorities are that year as a team, as a unit, as an individual. So it's everybody just kind of getting to know each other and trying to become that family so you can go through the hard times and the good times through the season.
Vencie, I'm glad you're with us this morning. I have a question that I've been kind of sitting on for a while to visit with you about, and that is Sam Darnold coming to the Vikings. I don't want to talk about Sam so much as the line I keep hearing after they talk about him, and that is he was drafted into a really bad situation, and now that he's with the Vikings, who knows, things could go great. Is that a thing? if you get drafted into a bad situation, one, is it up to you to kind of do something with it? And the second part of that question is, can you come back from it like they say he's going to do?
Well, I don't never think getting drafted is a bad situation. So if you're drafted and you say you drafted into a bad situation where you're not in the right mindset, because football is football once you step on the field. So I don't never think somebody's drafted into a bad situation. I do think that you can be drafted on a team that doesn't see you the same way you see yourself, or they saw you as a college player. And so therefore, because of schematics, personalities, that things just quite don't mesh with you, mesh with you. But on the other hand, going to a new situation and getting the fresh air and all that, which I'm very aware of, can also be great for you. So it's just the individual. If you're about the game and you learn the game and you know how to play the game at a high level, it doesn't matter what uniform you have on. You're going to play at a high level.
Speaking of playing at a high level, the Vikings defense hopes to do that. It looks like with the new, I can't say regime, but the new idea behind what this roster is going to look like, there could be more of a defensive identity than offense than in years past, of course. But it almost looks like positionless defense because Brian Flores lets so many guys do so many things. Would you have liked to have played that way, or do you think certain guys need to be in certain spots?
Nah, I'm gonna stick with the Tony Dungy theory. Everybody plays together. I don't. You can get cute and get schematics kind of messed up, and then you got guys just got too much on their mind. A lot of guys just can't handle a lot of things, even though you put them in positions to do a lot. So it all depends on the guys, the group of guys you bring in, how intelligent they are, what kind of mindset they have. Week in and week out, all that matters. It's just not getting a guy and say he can play football. They have to mesh, they have to mold, they have to understand your identity and what you're trying to do, and you have to be all in. You can't be halfway in. You have to buy into the whole situation as a unit.
Speaking of mindsets, I know in the NFL it's no secret who the star players are. They market them very well and everybody knows. But as a defensive back, when you see a wide receiver like JJ get paid the way he did, are you targeting shutting somebody like that down even more than usual?
No, I'm not targeting him to shut him down. I'm targeting to try to knock him out.
So you might literally be targeting the flag.
I know that you're not allowed to hit guys, but I'm going to find a way to put hands on him and let him know that, hey, you touted, you good, but we good on this side of the ball too. So I always say, kill the head, the body will die. And if you beat a guy down, he'll lose a little confidence.
Okay, let's flip it then, because as a Viking, let's say that you can view Justin Jefferson as a teammate. When contract situations like that get settled before the season, does that do anything for other guys, take anxiety away, or do you think in the NFL so many people are wrapped up in their individual life that it has no real role?
No, it's good. It's just good not to hear the reporters and media talk about certain guys all the time. So to get contracts out of the way, that's a team that wants to be focused all year. They don't want distractions for the young guys, especially when you got a new quarterback and a young quarterback. You don't want a lot of distractions from different players on the team because they're going to ask him about JJ every week. And that's not good for a young guy. He needs to learn the league. He needs to learn other teams. He needs to learn the philosophies and the system. So he needs to be focused. So I think it's good to get a star player signed so you can just go focus as a team.
So I want to talk about a guy that everybody kind of thought was going to be a star, and that's Lewis Cine. Now, Vencie, if you had a chance to sit down with Lewis Cine, like in a room with just one door, a guy who had 16 snaps last year, doesn't play special teams, a first-rounder with a bad reputation, how does he get back not just into the Vikings fold, but maybe even keeping a job in the league? What would you tell him with one-on-one in a shut room, and that you can say on the radio?
I was just asking one question: what do you want to do? And if he says, "What do you mean?" that further lets me know he doesn't have a plan. So it's not about it's human beings. It's like you going to a job the first day. It's like what kind of radio host you want to be. You got to know that going in. You can't just say, "Hey, I got the job. Okay, let's go," and I'll fly on the whim. You got to know what kind of person, what kind of player you want to be, and develop into that. So you got to have a plan. A dream is just a dream, but a goal is a plan with a deadline. Yeah. So you can dream all you want, but you better have a goal and a plan and a deadline in the NFL if you want to be around long. And a lot of guys just dreaming about being there, but not understanding what it takes to play at that level.
Speaking of understanding what it takes to play at a high level, last time I should say that you were on the show a couple weeks back at Hoops Brewing, I talked to you about Timm Brown because he's the commissioner of the Arena League that Duluth has a team in. I'm going to take you back a little bit, but in a different sense this week because the NFL lost a legend in Larry Allen, and he was an absolute freakish athlete for his size and his speed. His career did overlap a little bit with yours. Any Larry Allen memories?
No, I don't mess with them big guys up there. No, we
stay
ain't
away from those guys, right?
There ain't a lot of conversation with me and Lyman. One, we far away from each other, and if I do have conversations, because they're downfield trying to get me or chip me or get a lick in on me, so I may have a couple words there. But other than that, I'm not interested in what they have to say because you got the receivers too busy talking.
That tracks. That certainly checks out without question. So I want to ask you this because Dave brought up Lewis Cine, and Lewis Cine is kind of on the proverbial bubble, which is a tough spot as a former first-round pick. But when you look at the game today, if you're a safety that maybe is battling Cine for a roster spot, what's the biggest thing to learn to make the adjustment to get to this level nowadays?
Schematics, understanding the team concept of what the defensive coordinator and what the defensive unit is trying to accomplish. And you have to be the leader to be the safety there. You can't depend on your strong safety, Smith Harrison or something like that. As a free safety, you have to be the leader because that frees Harrison up to be able to do his job. He can't play free safety and strong. And that's one thing about being in the secondary. You guys all have to be on the same page, all five of you. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like two guys on the same page. Everybody has to be on the same intensity level and page going into the season so you can just continue that because guys going to get nicked up and beat up, and you need guys to come in and help out. So only thing I could tell him is, hey, stay focused on your trait. Obviously, he's not panning out to be what they thought he would be, and a lot of that can be off-the-field issues or a guy just not being what, you got to remember who drafted him. Yeah. I don't think this defensive coordinator would have drafted him. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at, okay, that regime is gone. Maybe we can get rid of him. Maybe he can come around this year. But, secondary, if you don't have the confidence year one, it's hard to build on it. It's hard to build on it.
Vencie Glenn, I'll tell you this. In terms of regular appearances and being top-notch in content, it's hard to compete with you. You've done a great job once again. It's amazing how football stays in the spotlight, and it's even more amazing how you do a great job of keeping it there. We appreciate your time once again today.
Thanks, Vencie.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Absolutely, you as well. That's our guy, 2-5, part of Drawing Lines, courtesy of Arolla Architecture Studio. It was quite a show once again today. Lots of thank yous to give out. Thank you to Dave Hoops. Thank you to PA Paul Allen. Thank you to Brian Timm, the new PA voice of the Duluth Huskies. Thank you, of course, to 2-5 Vencie Glenn. Dave Cook, I'm nowhere without you. Literally, you drive me places as well. But a big thank you to you.
Oh, thank you, Brian. It was a good one. And it is interesting how we can always come up with Vencie questions like Tuesday beforehand. That's just so much fun.
Tuesday beforehand. Sometimes it's 2 minutes beforehand. Oh, I can ask Vencie about this. His versatility. The V is for Vencie. It could be for versatility as well. Fact. We try to offer that on this show. Hope you enjoyed it. We're here with you 10 to noon every Saturday. No Monster Weekend kickoff this week because the Harbor Monsters are on a bye. But next week, we're back in the saddle with them as well. 10 a.m. to 1 then with Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook, and then Greg Grell joins us for the Harbor Monsters show. Speaking of the Harbor Monsters, head on down to Hoops. They got a meet and greet tomorrow from 1 to 5. Until then, have a great weekend. Dave Cook, you get the last word.
Drive safe today, Brian.
Absolutely. I won't drive at all. I will ride as safe as possible. Everybody have a good weekend. Celtics in 6. We'll see you.